Drag racing, it's one of the most extreme forms of motorsport on the planet. Two cars side by side, blasting down the strip in just seconds. It's all about raw power, perfect timing, and absolute control. But sometimes control is lost. And when that happens at over 300 miles per hour, the results can be terrifying. These aren't your average fender benders. These are split-second disasters, massive explosions, high-speed flips, fireballs, and crashes that left everyone breathless. This is the world of drag racing at its most dangerous and most unbelievable. Here are some of the wildest drag car crashes you won't believe actually happened. First up, John Force's fiery explosion at the NHRA Nationals. John Force is a living legend, 16-time funny car champion, a true icon of drag racing. But in 2007, during the NHRA Fall Nationals in Texas, fans watched in horror as his car literally came apart at over 300 miles per hour. Everything looked normal off the line. Then halfway down the track, disaster struck. The chassis twisted, the front end separated, and the car slammed into the wall, hard. What followed was a shower of debris, fire, and silence. John was critically injured, both legs broken, a shattered arm, and internal injuries. But somehow, he survived. And even more incredibly, he came back to race again. It was one of the most violent crashes in NHRA history, and a chilling reminder of just how unforgiving drag racing can be. Next, the terrifying crash of Larry Dixon in 2015. Larry Dixon was behind the wheel of his Top Fuel dragster at the Gator Nationals in Florida. Everything was going smoothly until it wasn't. Mid-run, Dixon's car split in half at full speed. The front section sheared off and went airborne, flying down the strip with him still strapped in. The rear half exploded in flames behind him. It looked like something out of a movie, but it was all real. Amazingly, Dixon walked away, shaken but alive. His survival was credited to the car's safety cell, which held together even as the rest of the dragster was destroyed. It was a crash that stunned the racing world and proved just how vital safety innovation is in this sport. Now let's talk about one of the most horrifying funny car fires ever caught on camera. Kenny Bernstein, 1986. At the Southern Nationals in Georgia, Kenny Bernstein was driving one of the fastest funny cars of the decade. As he launched off the line, everything seemed fine, until his car suddenly burst into a wall of flames. The body of the car was instantly engulfed. Flames shot through the cockpit, and at those speeds there was no slowing down quickly. Bernstein somehow kept the car straight long enough to slow down and steer into the safety zone. When the safety team reached him, they pulled him from a burning wreck that looked like molten metal. Miraculously, he escaped with minor burns. But the footage was haunting, and it forced the sport to take a hard look at fire protection for drivers. Up next, the dramatic flip of Lizzie Mousy at the PDRA Summer Nationals. Lizzie Mousy is one of the top female drivers in drag racing. But in 2021, during a Pro Nitrous qualifying run, her car took a turn for the worse, literally. She launched off the line with a clean start, but halfway down the track, the car suddenly got loose. In a flash, it flipped onto its roof, slid upside down at over 150 miles per hour, and slammed into the retaining wall. The crowd held its breath. Then, movement. Lizzie climbed out of the wreckage on her own, walking away with bruises and a broken heart, but otherwise okay. It was a wild crash. And then there's the unforgettable moment when Terry McMillan's Top Fuel dragster blew apart in a fireball. At the 2018 NHRA event in St. Louis, McMillan's car launched down the track, but seconds later, the engine exploded in a massive fireball that lit up the entire strip. Flames wrapped around the cockpit. Parts flew in every direction, but somehow McMillan kept control long enough to bring the car to a stop. He walked away, shaken but safe. The crowd cheered, not just because he survived, but because it was one of the most dramatic dragster explosions ever caught on camera. Next up, Antron Brown's near-miss disaster at the Pomona Winter Nationals. Antron Brown is one of the most respected names in Top Fuel drag racing, but in 2013, during a routine pass in Pomona, his car suddenly veered violently to the left. The tires shredded. The engine exploded. and the car slammed into the guardrail at over 280 miles per hour. Parts of the car were obliterated on impact. The front end was gone, flames shot out, and the cockpit slid hundreds of feet before finally coming to a stop. Incredibly, Antron walked away with only minor injuries, but the wreck left fans stunned. It was another brutal reminder of how even the most experienced drivers can find themselves in serious danger in an instant. Then there's the unbelievable flip of Stevie Fast Jackson. At the 2015 Radial vs. the World event, Stevie Fast's car hit the track like a rocket until the front end lifted and never came back down. The car took off like a jet, launching into the air and flipping multiple times before crashing back down to earth in a heap of twisted metal. It looked like something out of a Hollywood stunt sequence, but it was very real. Despite the violent flips and crushing impact, Stevie crawled out, shaken but still in one piece. The video went viral, with millions of views in just days. But for racers, it was a wake-up call about just how quickly lift and aerodynamics can turn deadly. Now let's rewind to one of the most surreal drag accidents ever caught on film. Doug Herbert, 2000. Doug Herbert was making a top fuel pass when, without warning, both rear tires exploded simultaneously. The car instantly twisted sideways, and the back half of the dragster literally disintegrated. Somehow the front half, with Herbert still inside, bounced, skidded, and slammed across the lane, dragging sparks and debris. It was chaos. Spectators watched in disbelief, but somehow, Doug walked away. The crash pushed safety standards even higher, forcing teams to rethink tire design, chassis strength, and how to protect the driver when half the car is just gone. Up next, Brittany Force's high-speed wall impact. In 2018, Brittany Force, daughter of John Force and a top fuel champion in her own right, suffered a horrifying crash at the NHRA Winter Nationals. Just seconds after launching, her dragster veered out of control and slammed into both walls, first the left, then the right, at almost 300 miles per hour. The crash crumpled the car like paper. Fans gasped. Safety crews rushed in. But Brittany, she was conscious and alert. She suffered a concussion and minor injuries, but returned to racing just months later. The fact that she survived such an intense impact is a testament to how far drag racing safety has come. Now here's a wild one. The airborne crash of Larry Larson's street-legal Chevy S10. During a no-prep drag race in Texas, Larry Larson's twin-turbo truck hit a bump in the track and took off like a plane. The truck lifted, twisted sideways midair, and came crashing down in a devastating rollover. For a split second, it looked like a stunt gone wrong, but it was just brutal, raw physics at work. The truck was wrecked. The crowd was silent. And then, cheers erupted as Larry climbed out, waving to fans. He later said, "That was the wildest ride I've ever had." And that's saying something coming from a guy with his track record. And finally, one of the scariest moments in drag history, Scott Kalita's fatal crash in 2008. At Old Bridge Township Raceway in New Jersey, veteran driver Scott Kalita was finishing a qualifying run when his engine exploded near the finish line. The parachutes failed. The brakes couldn't slow him in time. His car kept going, straight through the sand trap, over the safety nets and into the catch net at over 300 miles per hour. Tragically, Kalita didn't survive. The crash shook the drag racing community to its core, and it sparked major safety overhauls across the NHRA. Shorter tracks, better shutdown areas, and improved catch systems. Scott Kalita's legacy lives on in every safety measure implemented since. Drag racing is thrilling, explosive, addictive, but behind every lightning-fast run is real risk. These crashes show us just how fragile the line is between victory and disaster. The drivers who walk away? Legends. The ones we lost? Never forgotten. So next time you see two cars line up at the tree, remember, they're not just racing each other, they're racing fate. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for more insane motorsports moments, and let us know in the comments. Which crash shocked you the most? Until next time, stay safe and keep the rubber on the road.